Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. My name is Katie Gideon, and I will be the on-camera facilitator for this week for August weekly setup. We are so glad that you're joining us. You will see my co-facilitator in the chat, Maya. And so if you have any questions for us, let us know. But if you want to participate in the larger group chat, because you can participate in this social for as much or as little as you want, just double check that it is set to everyone. That goes to the larger Silk and Sonder fam in the app, in the chat. The host and panelist comes to just myself and Maya, so we are always willing to kind of chat there if you have any questions or concerns. But we know that everybody is going to prefer to get your amazing ideas, your amazing responses to the prompts, as well as just wonderful inspiration from everybody here. And with that being said, I am seeing so many of our returning socialers. It is so wonderful to see each and every one of your names in the chat. I really just sit here off camera and smile the whole time until I get to come on. So it's the best little group of accountability buddies. And I do feel like it's a little bit of like the prime time. I'm not normally a Sunday night person. I usually do the other events over the weekend, so I'm always a little nervous, but also really excited to be here. If you are new, we would love to hear in the chat if this is your first social or your first setup social, or maybe it's your first social in a while, because this can be a little bit of an overload of senses because you're going to want to work in your journal. You're going to want to set up your week. You're going to finalize your mind map. But then at the same time, you're going to want inspiration from the slides, maybe inspirations from the chat. And if I get too much when I'm talking or the music gets too loud, you can mute that. You can mute the chat. There is no right or wrong way to participate in this social. We are just glad that you've come exactly as you are, and we want you to take this time for you and your self-care journey. But as always, please be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. Respect everyone's privacy. No hate speech or bullying. Limit repetitive product and accessory questions. Redirect those customer care inquiries to our team, hello@silkandsonder.com. And as always, they are amazing. But if you need us to flag something, just let us know because we can talk to them directly, because Maya and I have some information, but not a lot when it comes to these specific accounting details. And then, as always, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. But you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So you may be in that category of you have loved this theme, you have loved August, you don't want it to end, you want to hold on to those last bits of summer, and you want nothing to do but celebrate all of those things. Or maybe you are absolutely ready for August to be done. You are absolutely ready for fall. You're ready to get out your Halloween decorations. You're ready to have Christmas lists ready to go. We are glad that you have come, like I said, exactly as you are. So that's where you can certainly, we love the freedom and the ability to kind of talk through our thoughts and feelings when it comes to the themes. And especially as we move into the end of this month and the beginning of next month, something to get excited for. But just keep that in mind. We don't want you to leave here negative. And certainly if you need to set up some of those mental boundaries or barriers, please do so, because we want you to leave a little bit better, a little bit, maybe a bigger smile, a little bit better way to tackle the upcoming week. And so with that being said, we are ending the last week with enchantment, and I have loved this theme. I've loved the timing of this theme. I think it's so perfect for that kind of, as you come down the hill of summer, it's that kind of peak summer at the end of, and I think there's nothing more magical about the like late summer that I feel like goes so well with that idea of enchantment. And I looked at things that kind of got my heart racing, that would take my breath away. But then I also wanted to embrace this idea, especially with it being, we've worked really hard the past couple months with some of the crunchier, as Bailey would call it, themes, with the authenticity and the simplicity and the vitality, as well as the independence. So those can be a little tricky, but I love this really like lighter opportunity to rest, refresh, and just kind of get stuck in a little bit. But I always try to think of, especially as we round up the end of the month, are how can I now take this idea of enchantment forward? And for me, these are the quotes that kind of come across that. And that's let yourself be enchanted in small ways. Enchantment, even for a day, can make a whole life bearable. So I think a lot of it is just that gentle reminder to be present. Because I also like the idea of being a little bit more present, notice those kind of magical moments in the ordinary days. And then adding in these, I'm in my definitely like bookworm era. So to be enchanted by story is to be granted a deeper insight into reality. And that's also not only reading stories, but sharing stories. Think about the time that maybe you went for drinks or had dinner with your friends and family, and you just share stories. And I feel like there's something so magical and enchanting about, reminiscing about some of those memories. I feel like that's kind of a great way to close out summer, especially as you're going into the hectic of the school year. I just can't help but even get a little nostalgia of those things. And then at the same time, the delight we inspire in others has this enchanting peculiarity that, far from being diminished like every other reflection, it returns to us more radiant than ever. So I do think this is one of those themes that can be shared with everyone. Because not only can you be enchanted by someone or something or someplace, but people can be enchanted by you. So I think that just kind of goes into the small everyday ways to embrace it. And I think we all could do with kind of continuing this like magical moment of, lack of Disney references, but spreading some of those pixie dust or fairy dust, or even getting out the fairy godmother moments of kind of bringing those things into your life as well as the life of others. So, with that being said, we are going to continue our enchantment mind map. We're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection on page 50, and then we're going to do those weekly setup pages on 52 and 53 in your August journal. So, if you have been with us for the month of August, the mind maps are unique to the weekly setups, and we include the previous weeks, but it's one of those things you don't always have to play catch up. Don't feel like if you've missed a week, these are just there as another way to dive a little bit deeper into the theme of enchantment. And I loved how these particular prompts kind of built on each other. And so we're going to round out that last prompt. So turn to your mind map. If you haven't created a mind map or you didn't create a mind map, just find a blank spot in your journal or turn to that blank page that you set up your mind map. Because, like I said, we've built it on. And so I think it makes for a really great story. And like I said, I'm in my storytelling era. So we found our time of day when the world feels very enchanted, the thing that kind of sparks awake with delight, and then places that hold magic. So now we kind of have a full story. We have the when, we have the where, we have the hows, and now we're going to include those characters. And so this week we're going to look at the people who enchant us. So who are the people who light you up, spark your imagination, or offer you meaningful presence? Is it a friend who tells great stories, a child who looks at the world with wonder, an author who's changed how you see your life, a performer, a painter, a mentor who has impacted you in a memorable way? And then you can include what qualities do they embody that bring out the best in you? That kind of reflective component, which was in the Victor Hugo quote that I shared earlier. And in true former fashion, the way I approach mind maps is I like to include a few other things. So the prompt that I just read on that page is listed as the first 3 points on this slide. The other ones I kind of want to add to kind of add a frame of reference is that this can be a combination of special qualities of multiple people as well as time frames. So, people you met that were impactful when you were a child, maybe people who are in your lives now, or maybe those kind of early budding friendships, potential friendships that you see a lot of potential there. And then I love the idea of bringing in real people, fictional people, people that you've met, or maybe people that you haven't met. When you start bringing in those things that kind of enchant you and kind of stop you in your tracks, take your breath away. Because I looked at it from, I'm really, really enchanted by people who can be so clever and creative. I'm a big fan of authors, especially fantasy authors, where they can create these very vivid, very realistic worlds, but still, go to the grocery store with us. And same thing with performers. I've been celebrating the whole month of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And again, just being able to see all of these amazing artists and performers that can be so creative and take people's breath away, but then you see them walking down the street just like everybody else. And it was the same thing. I worked with a coworker he essentially referred to himself as the court jester. And he was still one of the most effective operations people that I had ever met, but he never let it dampen his approach. He still had the spontaneity and the whimsy and just the creativeness that made it entertaining, but he still got everything done. So being able to exist in this enchanting world, but still very much being grounded in reality, I find amazing. So I would love to hear about the people who enchant you, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I loved seeing all of the different individuals who enchant you. I loved seeing all of the family members, the granddaughters, the daughters, the friends, as well as potentially those people that you don't know, the Disney Imagineers, but some, again, those actors, those performers, the writers. But what I love about this is I think it was definitely Chris that pointed out that the people that maybe are filling in for these enchanting moments or enchanting you may have a different role in your life. And I do always find that an interesting thing I hadn't noticed. But really and truly, as I think about it, I don't quite maybe give my friends enough credit or family enough credit to put in the enchanting category. And I think it's more of like I had that distinction of inspiring versus enchanting, but really those could actually be quite similar. It's maybe just, again, different stylized ways, but it's still someone that is having an impact on you. But as always, please continue to share your responses in the chat if you want to do so. And if you could maybe come up with something, or maybe this is something that you want to kind of include in your weekly set up pages as we go through this week, because I am not the biggest letter writer when it comes to some of the prompts here, but I felt like this absolutely spoke for it a little bit. This is an opportunity to write down, a thank you note or a celebration note or something to just kind of hold a moment to acknowledge the people that enchant you and inspire you. So this could be a great way to continue to include it throughout your weekly reflection prompts. So that was kind of my thought on it, where I was like I said, the person that I worked with, I hadn't really thought of in a while, but I do felt like they deserved a little bit of a thank you note for kind of just making the workplace a little bit more magical. So, again, thank you everybody for sharing. We are now going to turn to page 50 in your August journal. And so, this is the opportunity for your rosebud thorn reflection. And I always like to frame this a little bit as a roller coaster, the week of the roller coasters, because we have highs, we have lows, we have everything in between. But it's always a gentle reminder that no high is going to last forever, as is no low is going to last forever. But the privilege to kind of sit and see these all together, I feel like is just a great tool, because it is certainly an opportunity to put it out into the universe. This has happened. This is how you've taken it. This is how you're moving forward. Or maybe you're packing it away and leaving it for a different day. Or maybe you're just hope that the door hits them on the way out. But you can certainly use some of those maybe momentum or ideas as you move into the weekly setup pages. So the rose is going to be something that was a highlight, something that made you smile, that made you happy, that you did this week or accomplished. For me, I actually have Silk and Sonder to thank, because I am certainly not a crafty person. I am not an artist by any way, shape, or form. I am an excellent colorer in coloring books, but my doodling skills are that of a kindergartner. To the point, the perfectionist in me got a C in art every time I took it, so I'm not bitter. But I took a workshop for the activity of linen cord. So I actually made my own stamp, and I can now put that in now everything. Originally, it was designed to be put in books, but now this is my official stationery, my official calling card. It has my initials, and the anchor is a image that is very, very near and dear to my heart. So that is my official stamp. So it made me really happy. It was something that I'm not necessarily confident in, but I felt so comfortable. I'm so glad I did it. And I certainly never would have even attempted it without kind of, as I always say, my Silk and Sonder journey started with the trackers and all those kind of diligent like checklists, but I stayed for the creativity. So I challenged myself every single time to draw a rainbow, draw a garden, draw some stars, everything we did. I just got a little bit more confident with it, and I really appreciate it. So if you have that opportunity, I highly recommend it. And then emerging opportunity is something that you're looking forward to, something that makes you happy, something that you're looking forward to, or something that you haven't quite figured out what it's going to be, and you may be able to kind of manipulate it to turn it into a potentially a rose or maybe brace for those thorns. I'm not going to say it out loud because I feel like the universe would get creative, but I am looking forward to what my week holds and the lack of things in my schedule. And then you have the thorns. And so these are the challenges, something that didn't go so well, maybe something negative, or something that is taking a little bit too much time, energy, or effort from you. Christine, the bud is an emerging opportunity, something that you're looking forward to, something that is to come. The thorn, like you said, the challenge, the negative, something that isn't so great, and is something that was just taking up too much time. I'm pretty sure I stepped on something because my foot is killing me, and I am such a wimp when it comes to that. I usually have a pretty high pain tolerance, but it's like the bottom of my foot, and it has just been absolutely wrecking my life the last couple days, especially because I walk everywhere. So I'm a little sad about that. So that is my current thorn. But as always, I would love to see yours in the chat as we celebrate those roses, get excited for the buds to come, as well as acknowledge those thorns with extra support and thought and all of those feelings. So we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Appreciate just the honest ability to put these out here. And I feel like it's just a nice, friendly check-in because appreciate seeing all of the wonderful things that are happening, but also acknowledging, as someone so put it graciously, the ouchies, but the minor ouchies and the more major ouchies. But hoping everybody kind of works through those and navigates those, especially I know as we start to hit the end of the month, but also for those that have education age children or educators. We know that that always is going to bring in a whole new batch of roses and buds and thorns as we transition through all of those things. But again, that reflection was on page 50 as an opportunity to look back at your previous week. And so again, we can take some of those ideas and pull them into our weekly setup pages to maybe add some of that extra motivation or maybe that extra kind of reality and expectations that could be needed. But the ability to just look at all of these three things together, I think is really great. So now we're going to move into those weekly planner pages. So this is definitely the heart of the setup. So this is going to be on page 52 and 53 in your August journal. And so we're going to go through each section kind of piece by piece. And the way I always like to frame this is there is no right or wrong way to journal. There is no right or wrong way to set up your journal. And so this is an opportunity. I always say, if you get a little stuck, ask yourself, what do you need this week? Because sometimes what you need this week is exactly as written. It comes to that back to basics, but back to those fundamentals. Or maybe what you need is to completely revamp and completely repurpose this because your week is going to look a little bit different. And that is what I like about the weekly setup pages is they're going to be able to change from week to week because we know all of our weeks are going to look a little bit different. This week in August is going to be very different than the weeks in December, and it certainly probably looks very different than the week that occurred back in February. So this is your opportunity to repurpose. And as I said, there's no right or wrong way to do this. So I'm going to present specific examples, talk through some of those things. But if that is not the inspiration that you need, or if that's not what you need, then you can absolutely kind of go in a different direction. And sometimes what I also say, which I think is a great appropriate time for August, is that enchantments is that rest and refresh. Sometimes what you need is a rest from some things. So just keep that in mind. If you get a little lost, zoom back out for a minute and ask yourself, what do you need? And a lot of that can be, what do you need from this section? What do you need from this page? What do you need to support all of those things that you're putting together? So we are going to start at the top of page 52 with this week I want to feel. I like to use this as my kind of center point. So as I'm experiencing those roller coasters of the rosebuds and the thorns, I always like to ask myself, what do I want to feel this time next week? So that comes to my ability to come back to that center line, back to that equilibrium, and it does that kind of intentional optimism where I am taking control of my week and defining how I want it to be. And so I'm already seeing some of the answers: motivated, balanced, spoiled. But you can also approach it of maybe more of something or less of something. Maybe it's multiple words, a phrase, an affirmation. Maybe it's just 1% better, 5% happier, 15% hydrated. You can do all of those things. Maybe you need a different word for a different day. Maybe this is the same word that you had last week because you just came out of last week a rock star and want to keep that moving forward. I'm also a sticker is worth 1,000 words. So maybe it's more of a feeling or a vibe, but I'm going to give you a few minutes to come up with how you want to feel or provide that inspiration for this week you want to feel. And we'll see you soon. So now that we have how we want to feel this week or how we want to feel this time next week. You can also use this as a way to maybe summarize your next couple sections. So you don't always have to do this at the beginning. You can kind of do this at the end, which I know one of our other facilitators, Bailey, has done. And I think that's just as helpful. But I am now going to combine the next two sections because that's kind of just how my brain works. So I have now established how I want to feel this time next week. And now I'm going to overlay those weekly major 3 goals or the weekly minor 3 goals or just the 3 goals that I need to get done. For me, these don't really change from week to week. These tend to be the mental and emotional reminders that I need to get through the week. One that has currently been a staple is excuse myself from the unimportant. I have found that one to be really helpful, but this is where I put those reminders that I can then help me feel the way I want to feel, and then I overlay my to-do list as we go. There are other ways to approach this, which again, I'm already seeing Andrea uses the self, the family, and the home goals. Categories are a fantastic way to do this. Maybe it's a mind, a body, and a soul goal. Maybe it's embracing the alliterations of creative, capable, and carefree. Or maybe again, it is those 3 things that you need to accomplish this week. I always think of usual particular weeks. One, it was very specifically like I needed to get my passport renewed, and then taxes usually gets its own permanent goal when that time arises. So I have made modifications to those before, but you can also approach it as a way to embrace kind of routines or daily goals. So this person on the left has an early, a midday, and an evening goal. Or maybe you only want to focus on one big goal that has a lot of pieces that come to it, and those are what you break down in your to-do list. And then I always like the bottom left example because not only does it combine a lot of what I would say signature Silk and Sonder tools of kind of how you want to feel, they want to embrace. They have their 3 different categories with mind, body, and soul. They have those amazing, motivating bingo boards that they've now turned into their to-do list. So you have the to-do list and a bingo board under the 3 different categories to kind of help them feel the way they want to feel. And those all pieces can work together to add just a little bit more support if that is what you need this week. You can also come from the more kind of manifestation or affirmation side of things. The one on the bottom left was the mantras or the quotes that were going to get them through the week, or again, some more of those categorized alliterations. And so then you can bring in those weekly to-dos. And for me, um, the weekly to-dos are something that for me changes week to week. And that is just because a lot of what I have to do is definitely going to be dependent on the week. And I am normally a ta-da person because I love that celebration. But I have had to embrace a little bit more of the Eisenhower matrix. And that is the do, decide, delegate, or delete. Because I do live alone, my delegation I've had to lean a lot more heavily on. And that has just been mental gymnastics that I keep myself up at night at it, but I am getting better about it. And then I never delete anything, I just delay it. And so a lot of times it is that deciding point of trying to figure it out. And I've had to really restrict myself to, if it takes me longer than 15 minutes, I then need to sort it into either a delegate category or a delay category. So that's kind of how I overlay how I work with my Eisenhower matrix. And then again, you can break these down into those categories. You can throw them in a bingo. You can maybe turn these into just kind of recategorized ones with calls, errands, follow-up, and schedules. Maybe it's more of a need and a want approach. When you just have a bunch of, there are times I feel like I have just really random things on my list, and that's another way to structure it so that you can then move forward with it. Or you're like, Katie, I either have too big of a list and that lives elsewhere in my journal, or I just need a little bit of a motivational note, be it a sticker or just a mantra, because my to-do list is just not the priority for the week because maybe I'm not feeling well or all those things. So you just need to kind of shuffle around a little bit, which I think is why asking yourself what you need is important. And then you can also turn those into weekly to-bes, or again, break down those to-do lists between your work and personal to-dos, and then the need and the want category. So I know that was a lot. If I ever need to go back to a different slide, just let me know when I get off camera. But we are still on page 52, working on those next 2 sections with the weekly major 3 goals and the weekly to-dos. And we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. We are going to stay on page 52 in your August journal and move to that lower section with the habit and activity tracker, or the habities. And I am absolutely a creature of habit. So I have the same three habits and activities that I want to do every single day, every single week. So I carry those three activities from my monthly tracker into my weekly tracker, and then I add the lens of reality. And that is because how much time will I be able to devote to those three habits and activities? And for me, it is move every day, read every day, and journal every day. So I don't always associate goals with those, but I like to manage my own expectations with, am I going to be able to, read as I want, or do I need to set a time to read? Same thing with a workout. Is my week so busy and hectic that I'm only going to be able to include my movement for my errands, or will I have time to kind of have a dedicated exercise workout? So that's the way I approach it. But you can obviously set goals for these, or maybe these are habits and activities that you want to stop. Maybe this is where those kind of mental and emotional reminders live. Or maybe it's you're on vacation, or work has been a little hectic, or you're again getting those kiddos back to school, or you're an educator and this is maybe not the routine you need this week. And so you just need a break from the habits and activities while you sort out what your new normal is going to look like for the next couple weeks. And I love that you can include it either on a breakdown of the weekdays versus the weekends, because that it may look a little bit different, especially as we move into those seasonal shifts. And just because there are 5 lines here does not mean you need to use all 5. Maybe you are coming off a injury or an illness and you really just need to get better. I also like the idea of 5 days to schedule every month. I don't do this with a specific day anymore. I actually kind of focus in on a specific week. So this particular week, my focus is going to be a learning week. I am taking some business classes, so I need to kind of catch up with those, and I have some assignments due. So this past week, it's been a reset week because I had family in town, so I was just putting my space back together. So now I'm going to have a learning week to kind of get back there. But this has been a really helpful structure for me as I add those additional habits and activities to get me through my week. And then, I love my iconography. So ways to embrace the summer, the 6 lessons for August, if you just need some gentle reminders there, as well as the creative doodles. And then from the Silk and Sonder Instagram, if you're not following us on social media, I highly recommend it, because these are some cozy summer activities, which I feel like is perfect as we end summer and move into the cozy fall, as well as ending the theme of enchantment with romanticizing your life. So I think these are fun ways to incorporate those there. So I always challenge you to include that as a habit and activity. Or I repurpose my expense tracker as a adventure list or a bucket list. So I've already included some of these things just to make those magical moments a little bit better. So I'm going to give you time to work on this, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. So now that we finished page 52, we're going to move to page 53, which I lovingly refer to as the B side, just like a record. So we just completed the A side, which I do diligently every single week, every single time. And the B side, I just don't listen to as much. It is one of those that I think it's amazing. It has some really great templates, and so it would have some hidden gems that I then rely on. And specifically, it's the format for the meal plan. I love using that. I've used it in the past for certain things, and I'll go through those examples, but I'm going to combine this page. And so this is all of page 53. We'll go through it. Don't worry, I will go back through all of the examples as we go, and then we'll finish up. But the meal plan is something that can be repurposed, or you can use it exactly as is with a meal plan. You can either do that ahead of time, or you can do it in real time. I've used it as a real food time tracker as I was dealing with some symptoms. And so I was using that as I worked with my medical practitioner. But you can use it for your to-do list. Maybe this is more a meal plan for the soul. So you include those journal prompts, the daily affirmations, the daily rituals, or maybe the daily doodles or different priorities. I have also used this as a packing planner, so the clothing planner, and it's really helped me bring what I need without packing excess things. So I certainly use it for all of my work trips. So I've really appreciated it. But you can get really creative with these. And it's also a great tool if you're doing some of the habit stacking or habit building. It's another way you can use that there because it doesn't have to be used as a meal plan. But then we have the mind body health plan, which is another one of those. You can either treat it as a plan where you plan for it, or it can be something that you track in real time for what you did for your mind, body, and your health. And so this can be an incorporation of celebrating the different days, the national days, or embracing the alliterations of the days of the week. Nathania is in the chat, and her example is the bottom left with the what I think is a really, really effective mental check-in with the I feel and I need. I do not think we ask ourselves that enough during the day, because you could be able to kind of help navigate your day just by asking what you feel and therefore deciding what you need, being a little bit flexible and giving yourself grace to make some of those changes that are necessary. Or maybe you want to embrace a little bit of the 7 types of rest, or maybe this is where your adventure and bucket list live. Reading log. Again, the journal prompts can go here or just the motivation there. And then again, iconography. I love these. I know a lot of people are always on the social detox component, so maybe putting your phone down and doing these ideas. And then I loved the idea of advice from an optimistic otter. Don't worry, I will go back to these. And then you have the shopping list, which can go hand in hand with your meal plan. And that can be the things that you need for your meal plan. I use this as the extra accessories or extra items that I need to pack for my trips. So that includes business cards, adapters, chargers, whatever electronics I have to bring with me. Or you can certainly repurpose this. It's a great place for those bingo boards. And I feel like you can theme the bingo board, which I always great, especially if you have milestones coming up, a birthday bingo board, an anniversary bingo board, a back to school bingo board, or maybe you are ready for fall. So it's going to be your start of fall bingo boards. Or again, maybe it's that social check-in or those thank you notes for the people that enchant you. Maybe it's a buy, don't buy shopping list, or just the bingos in general, glimmer bingos, enchanting bingos. Another wardrobe tracker idea, the opportunities are pretty endless in this section. So I'm going to go back to the start of these and I will play one more song and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Yes, I can. And I know people always ask, how do I find my iconography graphics? Ironically, I find them on social media, but I did kind of a big social media purge, especially on Instagram. I'm an Instagram fan, and I went through and just kind of cleaned what I wanted to see, what I wanted to feel. And so I found all of these really amazing Instagram accounts where I can find those adventure lists, those bucket lists. Wonder Doodles does amazing affirmations with a Disney trend in it. The at Positively Presence, she positively present. She's amazing. So I know social media can be difficult to navigate, but you do have some control over that. And that is what I like to share in the like happy places of the internet that certainly put a smile on my face and opportunity to share that with you. But with that being said, that very last section on page 53 is the I am loving, and it is your opportunity. Yes, I will do that. Andy's, yes, sorry. But here again are some of those things that I get from social media with those handles there. But it's more of what I always love is finding all these things and really enjoying it. And I also am loving that kind of late summer vibe. I just feel like there's a glow that even as I noticed today sitting reading a book as the sunset, it kind of takes on that like warm sunset glow, I feel like in kind of that late summer, early fall. And so I really love that. That's kind of certainly some of my favorite parts of the year. I am definitely a summer person. I am a summer baby, so I'm definitely biased. But I always get excited for the new changes. And then, as always, we would love to see your weekly planner pages. One, for the inspiration, but you guys just do amazing things. So we would love to continue the conversation in the Silk and Sonder app. There are just some amazing ideas there. We love to see the full pages. I think the next weekly setup I do, I'm going to try and find some of the full pages to kind of get that full look, because I'm definitely one of those people that I like to weave them all together instead of just treating them as very separate assignments, so to speak. But that's just my particular preference. Here is a copy of my playlist. I will include the Spotify link in the chat. I save all of my playlists. They're there. So if you need a quick 30-minute something with a vibe, they're there. And it's broken down by month as well as theme. And then we also still have our AI 24/7 coach, Jenny. She's amazing. A lot of folks use her. She can be very helpful. She is there on demand. The more you interact with her, the more she learns. She can help you with the journal prompts, help you with when you're stuck, as well as just help with feedback, kind of when it comes to socials or how you approach things. It's really an amazing tool. And then Meha is also hosting a back to school, back to you, as all of those kiddos head back to school. It is now your opportunity to take some time to get back to you as well. That is going to be on Wednesday evening. I'm not going to put out the time, just double check Eventbrite just because of the different time zones. And because I am in a different time zone, math can be a little tricky to slate at night. And I don't want to get anybody the wrong information, but it is definitely on Wednesday. And then, as always, Maya has included some of the other chats, the YouTube link. So if you miss a social, or if I've gone too fast, or if you want another facilitator's perspective, all of those videos live there. We have over 1,000, and it's really amazing to see it. And then same thing with, we do have our upcoming September socials listed. And Kimberly, yes, I am hosting a monthly setup sometime this weekend. I'll have to look because I know first Maya and I are doing one of the prompt ones later this week to kind of close out August. So we'd love to see you there. Andy, I'll put that in. I think it was at Wonder Doodles. They're amazing. But we would love to see you at a future event. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. You guys are going to have an amazingly enchanted week. And I can't believe we're at week 4, but here we are. We will see you again soon. But again, have a great night. See you soon. Bye.